Have you ever felt like you're giving your absolute best, but the people around you just don't see it? Maybe you're the one always showing up, always helping, and always caring, yet all you get back is silence, or worse, criticism. It's exhausting, isn't it? Today, I want to talk about something that might sound a bit strange at first: silent forgiveness. It's not about letting people walk all over you. In fact, it's the exact opposite. It's about the moment you realize that your peace is worth more than their approval. Let's look at three stories that change the way I think about respects and moving on. Let's start with the story of Nislo. Nislo wasn't just any rooster, he was a bird with a real sense of duty. Every single morning, long before the sun even thought about showing up, Nislo was at his post. He would stand on the highest point of the fence, chest puffed out, waiting for that first tiny sliver of light. And when it came, he gave it everything he had. His voice was loud, clear, and powerful. It wasn't just a noise, it was a wake-up call for the whole farm. He was the reason the farmers got to work on time. He was the reason the day started with energy. He was, quite literally, a living alarm clock. But here's the sad part. Nislo wasn't met with thank yous or extra grain. Instead, he was met with anger. The farmers would roll over in their beds, cursing his name. They'd throw old shoes, rocks, and insults his way. They told him his voice was unbearable. They complained that he destroyed their sleep. Nislo heard it all. For a long time, he just took it. He figured it was just part of the job. He thought, maybe if I crow a little softer, or maybe if I crow a little later, they'll like me. But then he realized something important. He was doing exactly what he was born to do. He was being excellent at his job, and they were punishing him for it. One cloudy morning, after being yelled at one last time, Nislo didn't get angry. He didn't crow back in defiance. He just sat on his favorite fence and looked at the horizon. He thought to himself, where effort has no value, trying to prove yourself is just foolish. He realized silent forgiveness, the ultimate form of revenge, isn't about hurting others, it's about removing your light from their lives. He took one last deep breath, crowed one final time, not for the farmers, but for himself. And then he did something he had never done before. He flapped his wings and flew away from the farm. He headed toward the woods, looking for a place where his voice wouldn't be a nuisance, but a gift. That night, the farm was silent. The farmers slept late, thinking they had finally won. But because there was no Nislo to keep watch and wake the world, the farm was vulnerable. Thieves who knew the farm's routine noticed the silence. They realized the alarm was gone. Without a single sound to wake the farmers, the thieves took everything: the sheep, the tools, the horses. When the farmers finally woke up, they didn't find a new day, they found a disaster. Only then did they realize that Nislo wasn't just waking them up, he was protecting them. But it was too late. Nislo was gone, and he wasn't coming back. This is what life teaches us. Silent forgiveness means you stop knocking on a door that refuses to open. It means choosing your own peace over a toxic situation. Now, let's talk about Amara. Amara was a turtle who lived by a massive, rushing river. He was strong, steady, and incredibly kind. And he had a friend, or at least he thought it was a friend, named Tico. Tico was a restless little frog. Now, frogs are supposed to be good at water, but Tico was different. He was terrified of the deep parts of the river. He never bothered to learn how to swim in the currents. Instead, he relied entirely on Amara. For years, every time they needed to cross, Amara would let Tico hop on his back. Amara would struggle against the violent waves, his heavy shell pulling him down, his muscles aching as he fought the current to keep Tico dry and safe. And what did Tico do? He complained. He'd complain if the ride was too bumpy, he'd complain if Amara was too slow, and when they reached the other side, Tico would hop off and hop away without so much as a "thanks, buddy." One year, a terrible drought hit. The river began to dry up, and eventually, a path of stones appeared in the middle of the water. It was like a natural bridge. Tico saw those stones and his eyes lit up. He didn't need Amara anymore. Without saying a word, without even looking back, Tico jumped off Amara's back and started hopping across the stones. He thought, finally, I'm free of that slow, boring turtle. Amara stood there in the shallow water, watching Tico disappear. It wasn't just the weight of his shell he felt in that moment, it was the weight of all those years of being used. He felt a deep, heavy sadness. But then an old heron landed nearby. The heron looked at Amara and said, "You have the strength to cross this river alone, Amara, but you need to be careful about who you let ride on your back. Not every burden is meant to be carried, and not everyone deserves to stay beside you." That was the moment Amara practiced silent forgiveness. He didn't chase Tico down, he didn't yell, he just let go of the resentment. He forgave himself for staying in that one-sided friendship for so long. He decided that from that day on, he would only give his strength to those who respected it. A few weeks later, the rains returned. The river swelled, the stones disappeared, and the current became stronger than ever. Tico was stuck on the other side, screaming for help. He looked for Amara, but Amara was far away, enjoying the quiet life he had built for himself. Amara knew that the power of walking away was the only way to save his own heart. He wasn't being mean, he was finally being fair to himself. Finally, I want to tell you about Nico. Nico was a black cat who lived in a cold, snowy alleyway. He was a survivor. He spent his days dodging dogs and finding scraps of food just to stay alive. But Nico had a dream. There was a beautiful, luxurious house at the end of the alley. Every morning, Nico would sit by the front door. There was an earthen bowl there, usually empty, but Nico would wait. He'd look up at the window and see an old woman watching him. He imagined that one day she would open the door. He imagined she would pour a little warm milk into the bowl and let him sit by the fireplace. He stayed there through the wind and the freezing rain, hoping her heart would change. But she never opened the door. She would just look at him through the glass and then turn away. One particularly freezing morning, Nico was shivering so hard he could barely stay upright. Another cat, a golden cat with many scars, walked up to him. The golden cat said, "Why do you stay here, kid? This door isn't going to open for you. It never has, and it never will." Nico looked at the door, then back at the golden cat. "But I have nowhere else to go," he whispered. The golden cat replied, "You weren't born just to wait for scraps of kindness. You were born to find your own son. Staying here doesn't make her kind, it just makes you cold." Nico realized the truth in those words. He looked at the closed door one last time. He didn't feel angry at the woman, he just felt finished. He stood up, shook the snow off his fur, and walked in the opposite direction. He chose to stop waiting for someone else to save him. He forgave the woman for her coldness, but more importantly, he forgave himself for wasting so much time on a closed door. All three of these stories point to the same truth. Forgiveness isn't always about a big conversation or a hug. Sometimes it's quiet. It's the decision to stop giving your energy to people and places that don't give anything back. It's about walking away with your head held high. When you practice silent forgiveness, you're not saying that what the other person did was okay. You're saying that you are no longer willing to let their actions control your happiness. You are choosing